So one thing that hasn't gotten much of an update yet is the situation with Jermaine Pratt. Now, obviously, right now the Bengals are worried about a lot of things, right? We worried about T. Higgins, get that situation done. Obviously, Jamar Chase, Trey Hendrickson. We signed a lot of players. Well, I guess not really a lot of new players, but we re-signed a lot of guys we need to re-sign. And we've had a busy offseason so far with our coaching staff. So obviously, Jermaine Pratt wanting to be traded isn't really something that probably is on the top of our priority list. Now, based on what I understand, they've tried to, but really haven't found a suitable partner to trade him to. Obviously, right now, the Colts were the team that was interested in Trey Hendrickson, but really, I don't know if they are interested in Jermaine Pratt. You know, Lou Anarumo, I'm sure that given the circumstance, he would love to have Jermaine Pratt on his squad again, but it doesn't look like that's 100% true, you know, or maybe he just doesn't want to go out there and have to fork over the draft capital to get him, right? Or maybe the Bengals are asking for too much. Who knows? Now, we've seen in the history of the Bengals that when a player requests a trade, it doesn't mean that it's going to get done. We got to keep in mind, Trey Hendrickson requested a trade before. Also, Jonah Williams requested a trade before. T. Higgins has requested a trade before. You know, you go down the laundry list. Doesn't mean the Bengals will honor it or look into it or even, you know, try to trade the guy. If the guy has some value and they don't think the guy will play and he'll sit out, then yeah, sometimes they'll tell the player, hey, go find a trade partner. You want to go get traded, you go find someone to get traded to. So sometimes they do work with the player in that aspect, but I feel like there's also an aspect of like, okay, cool. If we want to trade you, we're going to trade you. But if not, guess what? You're going to be on the team next year no matter what. Now, again, the player could sit out, whatever, you know, put it out there, right? Quay Walker of the Green Bay Packers. Bleacher Report is suggesting we trade Jermaine Pratt for Quay Walker, which I wouldn't mind. Honestly, at this point, I just don't want to get a 7th round pick for Jermaine Pratt, which is what we got for Joe Mixon. And it's a good possibility we will. I don't know how much, what the trade capital will be for Jermaine Pratt. Maybe at best a 6th or a 7th, which isn't really much, but at the same time, it is what it is. Sometimes a beggar can't be a chooser. If he wants out and he's not going to play. Now, he hasn't said anything about him not playing next year if he doesn't get traded. So that's still kind of up in the air. But at this moment in time, I kind of feel like Jermaine Pratt's going to be a draft day trade. You know, like someone's going to be like, hey, listen, we want to, you know, we didn't get a linebacker we wanted. Here you go. We want Jermaine Pratt. Give us Jermaine Pratt for this pick. And the Bengals are going to try to wheel and deal and get that done on the draft day. So that's why another reason why I think it hasn't gotten done yet or hasn't been talked about yet is because of that. But again, Bleacher Report does suggest we go after Quay Walker, which a player for a player trade would not be a bad idea, especially Quay Walker, who is 25 years old, played 13 games last year, 14 games, 16 games. We're very weak at the linebacker position. Obviously, we did just sign Burks, so we do have Momon Jamita, but we haven't re-signed Joe Bacci. We haven't brought back a couple guys, so I'm going to be interested see what they do here. Now, obviously, we do have Logan Wilson, but he's more of an outside linebacker, and then you have, for just middle linebackers in general, obviously Jermaine Pratt would be our starter, so we would be placing our starter with, you know, Quay Walker, which again I would not mind if Jermaine Pratt doesn't want to play here, and we've already seen him play and get cooked alive many times in the past, like in games. I'm kind of okay with that idea. So obviously there might be some trade capital put with this trade, maybe Quay Walker plus a pick for Jermaine Pratt. In all honesty, I do love the Bengals mentality to a certain degree of them wanting to get the most possible out of every single player they trade. Sometimes I think it can get a little ridiculous with some of the things they ask for and some of the price tags they put on players. But even then, I I kind of do like the fact that they want the most out of their players, because sometimes they'll trade away. I mean, some teams will trade away players for nothing. The Bengals really aren't that team. Other than the Joe Mixon situation where we trade him away for a 7th. So, on a real note, though, I think if this trade does happen or any trade happens, it will happen on draft night. I just don't see it happening before that. And even then, it could happen after draft night. You know, that's also a possibility. But this Jermaine Pratt situation, I feel like, has gone so quiet. And again, this happens with every single player who requests to be traded. Is they request it and everything goes quiet. Maybe some articles here and there talks about, oh, this would be a good fit, this would be a landing spot. You know, I'm sure the Bengals are going to somewhat shop around that player, but it's kind of like, oh, hey, I want to be traded. And then it's just like, okay, cool, we don't really care because we have a lot of things to go through and a lot of things to work on. You know, we're going to handle you in the meantime, as you are very low in the priority list now. Because clearly you don't want to be on the team, so we got to put you on the priority list. Now, when we signed Oren Burks, based on what I understand, we told him he was, theoretically speaking, could be a starter. Like, he would get some starter time. So it's not like we signed him to say, hey, you're going to be the backup, right? You're going to be the back of the backup here. No, we told him, hey, you're going to be a starter. Or not a starter. You're going to have starting time. Like, you're going to be a rotation with a starter. So that would mean that Jermaine Pratt probably is going to get less starting time. And again, if they also think, well, we're potentially going to trade away Jermaine Pratt, it makes sense. If you think, okay, well, we're going to trade away this guy, we're bringing somebody else. Obviously, I don't really love the idea of replacing Jermaine Pratt with Oren Burks. Just because, again, we'll have to wait and see, but I would like to get someone, you know, maybe a little bit higher tier than Oren Burks. Not saying Oren Burks is not a good player, but I'd like to get someone a tad bit higher than that. Quay Walker could be interesting for that concept, you know? And again, at the end of the day, we need to get as many good linebackers as possible. Again, as I said before, linebacker room is very, very, it's very light right now. And getting as many good linebackers as possible is going to help us out. So, sure. I mean, at the end of the day, again, we're going into a draft that is good for linebackers. We're going into a draft that, you know, the more draft picks you have in this situation is better. You know, our issues right now are offensive line, defensive line, linebacking crew, and safety. This is, well, other than safety, this upcoming draft is good for everything but safety. Everything I just listed but safety. So the more draft picks we can have is better. So sure, let's go for it. Tell me down below your thoughts, opinions. See you guys in the next one. Peace.